there's a little delay. Holy cow. We are here. This is going to be an awesome episode of Easy to Read Deep Thoughts with my special guest, Lily. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I guarantee you've told me. I forgot.
Lily Goya is my
Oh my
name.
God.
Yeah,
I'm happy I asked. Happy I
yeah.
asked. Holy cow. Super cool. Uh, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm going to start off with introduction. Lily and I were just talking a moment ago. I'm going to start off with introductions, then we'll describe the structure of the show, and then we will dive right in. For myself, noteworthy note. I helped implement the health information exchange for the state of Minnesota. And I bring that up. That's like my opener for every one of these episodes. Why? Because in that opportunity, I was able to sit down and drink a cup of coffee with 30 some odd thousand veterans. This is a big deal because it changed my perspective. Like, that's an awful lot of conversations with an awful lot of different personalities and different perspectives. It adjusted how I see the world. Second noteworthy note, I coach a boxing class, and when our class maxed out, we can only fit 40 people in the gym. We started recording our classes, putting them on YouTube, figuring similar to church service. Uh, yeah, yeah. If my wife and I, if we can't go to church, we watch it, right? And well, we started doing this for our boxing class, and now we're coming up on 500,000 views. People all over the world are watching our classes. Turned
Wow.
into a real big deal. Oh my gosh, Lily, you are up. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Lily Goya. I am currently a student in my senior year at the College of St. Benedict. I'm studying kind of an individualized major, so it's a combination of entrepreneurship and the music industry. And so with that, I've been able to create a business, which is AMP Streaming, which is a Christian music and podcasting streaming service that
Awesome.
allows users to search for content based on their emotional needs and musical preferences. So, yeah.
Holy cow, deviating a little bit from what I just said. That's like our origin story. That's how you and I got to know each other, or that's where we started talking after the Brandon David, introduction or what.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Super cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, structure of the show. We are going to read I wrote this article, this newsletter independently from Lily's feedback. So she gave me the topic, which was music and mental health. Holy cow. High five on that one. That's a deep topic, right?
Thank
That's
you.
great. That's perfect. I wrote this article independently from Lily. She hasn't seen it before. Yeah, yeah. That's on purpose because I'm hoping I asked her leading up to this. I asked her to correct my thoughts, add to my thoughts, to independently overlay her opinion on top of what I wrote. Why? Because that's the structure for good conversation. It's going to be awesome. All right, diving on into it. Music and mental health. My special guest this week on Easy to Read Deep Thoughts is Lily. I've already forgotten how to pronounce your last name. I'm just going to move on and keep talking. I'm going to make it up as I go. Lily is a student at our local college of St. Benedict and St. John's University. I grew up in Avon, so that was like my back. That was like my backyard. She's building an app to pair Christian faith music with the mood of the listener. Oh my gosh, I was kind of questioning myself as I described it. Is that appropriate? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
I think so.
Awesome. Sweet, sweet. Holy cow, this first paragraph, this is deep. Like, yeah, I actually had to scratch my head for a little bit before I wrote this. What is music? This thought is interesting to consider, and I'm going deep as I think about it. First thoughts, what makes music music? Right? Like, holy cow, it's actually yeah, kind of breaks my mind a little bit when I first like how would you oh well, I'm gonna go deep right off the bat here. Like, holy cow, what is music? And I speak to this further down in the article, but where is the set? Well, not deviating, but whatever. I'm going with it. What is the separation between communication and music? Like when does communication become music? Right? Like where is that defining line? And I was contemplating that as I was writing this. Super interesting. It's blurry in my mind. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts because I'm sure you've come to that rabbit hole or you've come to that crossroads in the process of building your app, eh?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it depends on in what context we're talking about. I think a lot of the times the music that's being streamed or that's being like considered art in more mainstream ways is probably the use of singing and instrumental or solely just instrumental or solely singing. I think in a broader sense, like in the history of the world, that there probably are a lot of more gray lines, like when you think about like Gregorian chanting and things of that nature, just
Good
chanting in
call.
general. I think I think maybe that's where the line kind of gets a little bit blurred. But ultimately, when it comes to like the idea of there being a separation between music and communication, I actually think that there isn't one. If anything,
Nice.
what we're taught, especially when I was learning composition, is that music is a language. Um, and I think that that's something that a lot of people don't know. It is a language, and so therefore it is a form of communication. I think it's just on a different level. And in my opinion, it's on an even deeper level. I think that it initiates certain parts of your mind. As somebody who's a Christian who's also spiritual, I also think that it also initiates your spirit and your soul as well. And so, in my opinion, it's like an even deeper form of communication because where words fail and can fail and often fail, there are like unspoken truths and feelings that are allowed to be relayed through music that otherwise wouldn't be able to through regular communication.
Oh my gosh, I'm a visual thinker, so this is playing out as a picture a picture in my mind. Why? Why is music more yeah, I'm struggling to think of the appropriate word. Why is music better? Oh, that's too simplistic. Better than normal communication. Why is it more complicated? Like, oh my gosh, there's there's different dimensions to music. Like normal talk, like my talking, my presentation now. Actually, you know, we're touching on like a lifelong pain point for me because I think visually, which is not the average, it's not the normal. It is super challenging for me to digest what I'm seeing and describe it verbally. It's functionally, it's like taking a 3D image and turning it into 2D words. Like there is a downgrade in that translation. There is a loss in translation, and I'm picturing that with music. There's multiple layers to music, more than just the words that are being said. You like the tone. You can say something happy, and you can say it, you sing it in an aggressive way, and it changes the information that's being expressed, right? And that's a different dimension of the communication. Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, tempo. Oh, well, you know, and I'm making this up as I go. I'm thinking out loud here. Tempo, the speed. Like I'm aware how fast I talk when I'm speaking with people, or you know, I make a point to be. The speed of the music, something really happy played really fast, could change how it feels when you hear it. Like the words that are being expressed changes how you express it, which speaks to a significant variable in yeah in this prescription of whatever idea you're trying to convey to the other person.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, that was a that was a complicated way to say that. Holy cow, there's a lot going on in music. It's not just what's being said or sung or whatever.
No, I honestly think that oftentimes, like, sometimes what's being said is at the very end of what ends up being perceived. Like, there are a lot of people, like me personally, I don't know how to speak Spanish, but I will enjoy listening to Spanish music. I don't know what
Yes,
they're
man.
saying, but I can still get the vibe, I still get the feeling. Like music is able to transcend like the barriers of regular communication. There are even studies out there about like plants. When you play classical music to a plant while you're watering it or nurturing it, that it will grow stronger than a plant that isn't listening to classical music. So that even tells you that music even transcends past even like human communication, that there is something in the background of all of life that is able to communicate through music in ways that just speaking honestly can't comprehend and um, just can't do, which I think is really amazing and fascinating also.
Holy cow. Oh my gosh, as we're peeling this open, it's dawning on me. we could make this into multiple episodes. There's actually a lot going on here. Holy cow. And I didn't think about this ahead of time. Your last point with music changing plants, that's a provable thing. Like that's done. The case is closed. That does happen. And then what does that mean for like super deep, like for the fabric of reality, right? Like it does matter. Like we know it matters. We as a society don't talk about it very often, or maybe it's not articulated very well. Maybe this deep concept doesn't make it to the surface very well, but that's like reality does work that way. Like,
Yeah. Well, and I think
yeah.
we are in a society that is very reliant on the intellectual aspects of things. If you can't intellectualize it, then there's it almost feels like it's not real or it's not worth exploring, which I think is a huge mistake, because there are so many things that lie below the surface that I think could end up changing just even the way that we understand and interact with one another. And I think music is kind of one of those things. It feels abstract to some extent, and so it's very hard to grasp. And if it's hard to grasp, then it's probably even harder to, like I said, intellectualize it. But I think that kind of sucks because, um, yeah, I don't know. I think that there's so much that happens behind the scenes of what we're able to communicate as humans. And I think it's a downfall of ours to not be able to have the courage to kind of unravel those things unless we know how to intellectualize it. I mean, that means that we're always kind of at the mercy of our ability to intellectualize. And if you look at the history of human intellectualization, there are multiple moments where we are very wrong. And so it just makes you wonder, like, how much we're missing out on by being 100% reliant on our own understanding, which I think is also very interesting.
Oh my gosh. I don't remember where I was thinking. I think it was a previous episode or maybe some article I was writing. I was just scratching my head on this particular topic. And speaking of needing a thesaurus, I don't have one and I can't think of a better word. Communication's dumb, right? It's like a dumbed down version of what's actually going on. Humans are so much better than just words or the communication that we speak. That picture is 1,000 words. Nope. It is way more complex. It's 1,000,000 words. It's 1,000,000,000, a trillion. Like it doesn't really matter. There is so much more than what is spoken. And oh well, oh hey, ironic. I am biased towards bias because I speak of biases in this confirmation bias, I can't think of the appropriate one, but the path of simplicity, like assuming well, whatever. This is a deep thought, but hey, this show is deep thought. Like we are naturally skewed towards the path of least resistance,
Mhm.
and taking words for surface value, face value, is the path of least resistance. Oh my gosh, I might have gotten stuck in this rabbit hole a little bit here. No, I'm still stuck on dumb or lame is probably a more appropriate word. Like communication itself is lame. Like most people don't appreciate the depth of music, or they're not aware that they're not aware. Like
Yeah.
all these different layers of music. Jump in, stop me at any point in time.
No,
Most people are. Oh, go ahead. Yep.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I
No, I
think
want you to.
that
Yeah.
is like really important, the not being aware of like music. And I think that that also has like a bit of a negative impact,
Yes, ma'am.
especially in our society. Like as a young person and paying attention to like the type of artists that come out and the type of music that they portray, you can see a direct correlation between what's glorified in music and the effect that it has on young people and their goals and their dreams and how they perceive the world. And so, like even the idea of like drugs, sex, and alcohol that is like so hardly pushed through certain mainstream rappers or singers, it quite literally has a direct effect on how students interact with each other in high school or with friendships, or how students perceive drugs, sex, and alcohol. It makes them either more open to it or less open to it. But a lot of times we see how it can have a huge negative impact on people's realities and what they strive for and achieve. And so it makes you wonder, like, in the background, if music is so powerful to like impact and kind of decide how you think, in some ways it almost feels like magical, which isn't the word I want to use, but it is kind of like the feeling where it's
Functional.
like, yeah, where I can put a message into a song, and as long as it's catchy, if you're listening to it, it is going to seep into your subconscious. It's going to reroute how you think. On the positive side of that, though, that also means that we have the power to kind of reshape minds and kind of help people, especially as it relates to mental health, which is something that I'm so passionate about.
Yeah, oh
But
my gosh.
music also has the power to be an aid and a healing force. And so I think it's really important that people become aware, or, it's really hard because once again, that path of least resistance, like, if ignorance is bliss, essentially. And so if I'm doing something wrong and you're pointing it out to me, it's very difficult for me to want to accept it, because that requires me to take responsibility that I haven't had to take before. But
it's a resistive path.
yeah, exactly. But I think it's so important because it does have the power to heal. And I think we're reaching a point in society where people are in need of very deep healing. And so part of that is becoming aware of what's not working, but also being intentional about accepting what will work. And I think the type of music that you're listening to and the message and the music that you're listening to is a huge part of that. Just being very careful about what you're consuming.
Oh my gosh, very careful about what you're consuming, which speaks to the awareness portion, eh? Oh my gosh, that is good. Holy cow, you're killing it. This is awesome. Okay, I'm gonna dive back into it. Like, holy cow, this is great. Where was I? Mental health. Okay, I think this is where I was at. I don't remember. I'm going with it anyway. Mental health. Speaking to my above point on identifying the separation between normal communication and normal music, we just spoke to that. The separation between internal influence and external influence is similarly hard to define. The line is blurry, it is not discrete, and it is not easy to see. And this is another. Oh, this is a deep thought. I think we just touched on it a little bit, but where do you go from just talking to communication? And I'm winging it as I speak here. This is the multi dimensions of communication, of like the tone of music, the speed of music, the environment, the external environment, and where I'm listening to the music. You can be in war listening to soft classical, and yes, it would change things. It would change your perspective of this super chaotic, I'm just making this up, but like a super chaotic I box the classical music, right? Like, it's counterintuitive, but it does make a difference. It is significant. It is measurable. The difference that the music, the output of this classical music input produces. Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm going to keep reading. Would working in a quiet I just spoke to this. Would working in a quiet office be different if someone cranked up death metal music? Okay, that's a pain point. That actually happened. That was a situation in my world. Cubicle next to me, cranked. Yeah,
That's funny.
it's hard to think.
Yeah.
Would playing classical music softly in the background be a measurably significant variable in office team productivity? I already know. That's a loaded question. I already know. Yes, it is. I'm asking the question. Oh, I'm asking the question, but it's loaded. We already know the answer is yes. External variables impacts internal perception, and internal variables resonate with the perception of external stimuli. And that's a fancy way. Well, that's a complicated sentence, but we were just speaking to that. Yes, your environment. It's essentially impossible. Oh, that's a blanket statement. It's impossible to isolate internal variables from external variables. They are one and the same. Hence, meditation. Meditation, you're supposed to isolate your internal thoughts from what's going on in the world around you. And as I think anybody that's done meditation would agree, it is super hard to do. Why is it super hard? Because they're mushed together. Like, you basically can't separate it. And 100 years of meditation to hopefully get to that moment or that point of enlightenment where you can separate your internal state from the external state. I suck. I think I can pull off a meditative, a clear, present thought for maybe 5 seconds, if that, if that. You know. Oh my gosh. There, I'm just going to keep reading. Jump in. We got 10 minutes here.
Okay.
Jump in with any thought to add to anything I'm saying. Oh my, yeah. Have you tried meditate? What, let me explore you. Like,
Mhm.
what do you do when you're stressed out? When you're, oh my gosh, you're in college, you're building this app, you got a lot of stuff going on. I see the posts uh, locally. I described you as a local superstar when I
Yeah,
was speaking to. I
that's
introduced
great.
you to some venture capitalists not within this last week, but that's how I described you, an up and coming local superstar. What do you do when the world is stressed or life is tough?
I literally listen to music. Like what I'm making is not something that I want to sell to people because I want to make profit. Like it's literally what has aided me when I struggled with mental health, and it continues to be like a tool for me even now. And so like recognizing the effect that it has on me, I just want to be able to create a platform that can do that intentionally for other people. So, and part of that is twofold. I mean, I am a Christian person, and so I'm listening to Christian music in a point to invite the presence of God, to invite the philosophies and the thoughts that come with God into my mind. And that I think is what's really important. The messaging behind the music and how it like reshapes your mind, like we spoke about, is so important. And to speak about the meditation, that like to me that is meditation. I think meditation shows up in a lot of different ways. Yeah, I think a lot of times people think meditation has to be either silence, which I think it can be, or it has to be like instrumental music, which I think it can be. But also, I think that no matter what you think you're aware of, you're always meditating on something, which is why you have to
Good
be
point. Solid.
yeah, which is why you have to be intentional about what it is that you're consuming, because as long as you allow it to enter your atmosphere, like you're going to meditate on it, especially the more that you listen to it, the more that there is that
Ruminate.
subconscious, yeah, it continues to ruminate. And so that is meditation. And so I do meditate. I meditate on music. I keep it to Christian music just because I want my mind to stay on things that I feel like are pure, and that are high in energy or high in vibration. And so because I want my conscious to stay clean and stay pure. And when you're somebody who has struggled with depression like I have, listening to things that cater to more of like a primal, uncontrolled, getting what you want, or things that cater to your emotions, not in a way that helps them, but rather in a way that feeds into this lack of control. I think it's very dangerous because once again, if you ruminate on it, you're telling yourself, yeah, this is okay. This thought is okay. Whatever I'm hearing is okay. And so it's only a matter of time before you begin acting out what it is that you hear. Um, and so, yeah, I meditate on music, and then of course I meditate on. I like listening to people who I feel like have wisdom on certain topics, especially on things that I struggle with. For example, um, stable father figure. And so that was something I was able to recognize was a weakness in my emotional intelligence or growth. And so I've been intentional about listening to people who talk about healthy father figures or people who represent healthy father figures to me. And so I think that's also a really cool aspect of meditation and music or podcasts, is like you can recognize where there may be a weakness for you, and there's somebody out there who is putting out some sort of communication, whether it's music or podcast, that can help fill a void that you otherwise might have had. And in that sense, you're able to become stronger. And so meditating and hearing things, yeah, it's really important. And it's like it can build you up. And if it can build you up in such a strong way, then I think, you know, playing the devil's advocate, it also has that power to destroy you if you allow it to. So yeah, I guess that's my thought on that.
Oh my gosh, and how many people, so many people do allow it to destroy.
Yeah.
Okay. I suppose awareness is step one. And yeah, I would say most people, up until recently, I wasn't aware. Like, I would say most people, most of the populace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Alrighty. Happy music makes you happy. As simple as I have the article up over on this side. Forgetting I can read it right here. Also, happy music makes you happy. As simple as it sounds, playing happy music makes people happier than playing sad music. We just spoke to that. Sad movies are more likely to make people sad than happy. Sad pictures are more likely to make people sad than happy. Controllable external variables can be used to adjust uncontrollable internal variables. Play happy music. If you want to be happy, play happy music.
Yeah. And I think too that's really interesting because I hope this doesn't contradict what I said before, but there are moments I think there's an issue in society with the need to be happy at every moment. I think the
Yeah.
reality of life is being able to experience every exactly. I think if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who I don't want to say make themselves depressed because it's not themselves, but it's almost like if you're constantly comparing yourself to what you think should be, which is this consistent happiness, then in comparison to what you truly experience, you feel as though you're not hitting that mark and so there must be something wrong with you. When really that I don't think that that's true. I think what makes anything amazing or powerful is when there are moments when you have it and there are moments when you don't. I think sadness,
Contrast.
yeah, exactly. I think it's like the same thing as like, I don't know, eating candy. It's okay to eat candy, but it's not okay to eat candy all the time. And even though you think it tastes good and it's sweet, if you were to have it at every moment, it would actually have more destructive properties than it would have good properties, even though it feels good. And I think also when you're sad, that it's okay to be sad. I think it's just having a balance between understanding that I am sad, but not intending to create an identity in the sadness. And I think that that's something that our society struggles with. If you're grieving, someone telling you to be happy is not helpful because actually you do need to go through that entire grieving process. It's a part of, your experience, and it's actually the only way that you heal is if you experience all of it. But also understanding when it's time for you to move forward. And so music can play a role in that too. I was able to talk to a music therapist who showed me how music can literally like ignite or create a space for somebody who otherwise wouldn't be able to articulate what it is that they would feel. And so sometimes brushing over it is an issue. Sometimes you actually do need to sit in it and allow it to come out. And I think that
Process.
that's amazing. Exactly.
Our pastor describes seasons, and
Yeah.
that's something that's worked out really well for me because everything's a season, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, yeah, thinking of it like that puts an end date or a start date, and yeah, yeah. Bad times are part of the process, right?
Exactly.
With the,
Yeah.
uh, oh my gosh, we're in our last 2 minutes here. Yeah. Um, this is complicated. You need you have to have rainy days to appreciate the sunny days, right? If it was
Yeah.
sunny all the time, it would mean nothing. The rainy days add context to the sunny
So
days.
the
So
sun.
when you're thinking, hey, I love the sun, well, it's actually saying that I love the rain also
Yeah.
because you need both. They work dynamically.
Exactly. If you're growing, then you need the sun to help you, but you also need the rain to water you. And both things are very important to your growth as an overall person or creature or whatever. So, yeah.
Rain to water you. That was good. That
Yeah.
was good. Yeah, nice. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna read this last paragraph and spoiler alert, I'm gonna ask you to come up with one closing sentence to this episode after I'm done with this paragraph.
Okay.
Minimal viable product. Oh, yeah, I'm running with it. Minimal viable product. I picture the point in my paragraph above as MVP or Occam's razor. Could work just as well. Occam's razor, the simplest solution. What is the simplest thing we could do to solve mental health issues? Years of therapy could work. Complicated drug regimens or pharmaceuticals work too. Neither is simple, and both come with measurable costs and risks. Music is simple, natural, and humans are naturally skewed towards to resonate with its simple musical solution. Why not start with music first? Is harder to explain than why I messed that sentence. Why not do it is actually pretty complicated. Maybe the divergent thinking applies there. Like, why not do it? Oh my gosh, our last moment here. One sentence to close out this episode. One thought. What do you want our audience to take away from this conversation?
What you consume is very important, and it's not just physical. Food is important, paying attention to what you consume, but so is any other form of media. As long as you're digesting it in a mental state, in a mental sense, I mean, then it has an effect on you. So be intentional and take control over what you're consuming and what you're allowing to be a part of you. Because whether or not you want it to be, human beings are impressionable and everything has an impact on you. So I guess that was a very long sentence. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. No, that was awesome. Nice work. Holy cow. Plug your I forget what it's called. The company, the app.
Oh
It's not
yes. It hasn't started yet. We're actually going through a crowdfunding campaign. Today is our last day, but I do have a tester ready, and so if anyone wants to test the mock version of the app, I would
awesome.
be so happy, yeah, to allow you to. So once again, it's AMP Streaming, which is a Christian music and podcasting streaming service that allows users to search for content based on emotional needs. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Lily Goya and DM me, direct message me if you would like to test it out. Thank you
Holy
so
cow,
much.
that was perfect. Much
Yeah.
appreciated. This is a great episode. Nice work. All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you for